Welcome to the Frozen Forum podcast. I'm your host, Alex Nagy, joined by our other host, Nathan DaCosta. Nathan, how are you doing today?
Not too bad. It's a good day. I'm already wearing this golf shirt because I'm going golfing right after this podcast.
Sweet. Tea time's booked and everything?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So just to give everybody a backstory on who we are two university students who love the game of hockey, especially the Montreal Canadiens. We follow very in-depth, at least I do. Nathan's going to take a little bit more of a step this year with that, but Nathan played hockey all the way up till when he was graduating high school. Nathan, how was your experience just in the hockey world in general, and how did you really get into it?
Yeah. So I started playing hockey when I was 7. I played house league hockey from when I was 7 until I was 13. And then when I got to high school, I started playing travel hockey, representing our city throughout high school. And so, yeah, that's my experience playing hockey. And then in terms of being a fan, I grew up in a Leafs household. So I wasn't really a huge fan of the Leafs. I was more pushed into it. And I'd watch the games with my dad and brother, but I was never really into it that much. And at the time, being a defenseman and seeing someone like PK Subban on the Habs, it was pretty inspiring to me to see another person of color playing defense. So I ended up choosing the Habs. I love the Habs, love watching them. And yeah, that's where we are today.
Awesome. And then, so then on my part, I've always been a huge Habs fan because my dad is a Habs fan. He'd take me to games in Buffalo, because obviously those ticket prices are way cheaper than the Toronto tickets. But I never actually played. The most games I played was this year on our intramural hockey team. So that was a new experience for me. It was playing with refs on the ice. I've played a little bit of pond hockey in the past, but my passion's always been watching and paying attention to the Habs. Nathan over here was, I guess, the rebel in the household.
Yeah.
His rebellious phase was, "Hi, I'm going to cheer for the Habs," and then that
Yeah.
just turned into a full-time commitment. That's pretty cool.
And then we kept it going in the NFL. They're both Cowboys fans, but I chose Miami. Chose
Fair enough.
Miami because I like Tua. I like Tua, and then they picked up Tyreek, so it just worked out well for me. And
Just
we're
kept
gonna see
going.
what
Yeah.
happens this season.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, so let's get right into the main content of our podcast today. We wanted to give everybody a little recap of everything that's happened in the off season for the Montreal Canadiens, and that, of course, starts with Patrick Laine. Like, what a trade! This came up a week and a little bit ago. It was like last Monday that we started seeing the news. I got a text from Nathan. He was like, "Yo, I'm seeing things about Laine to the Habs." And I was like, I've seen these rumors all summer long. There was these fake accounts, these fake insiders who were all telling us about this trade. And then it actually happened. Nathan, what was your first reactions to this trade?
Well, I saw it was Elliot Friedman that made the tweet, and I let you know, and you didn't believe me at first, and I was like, okay, just wait till you check your phone in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But having a guy like Patrick Laine will help us tremendously. We have two. Our first and second line could both be first lines at this point. Um, mm, I think like we have projected lineups. Obviously, we're gonna see Caulfield, Suzuki sticking with each other, but I think that will be the only thing definitive. Now that we have Laine, I could see those first two lines changing up a bit, but keeping Suzuki and Laine or Suzuki and Caulfield together.
Right. Right. And then, so then let's just go over the trade just in general. So we
Right.
acquire from the Columbus Blue Jackets Patrick Laine with his full cap hit at $8.7 million. It's a lot of money. It's the most money we paid to any player on our team right now, other than Carey Price, who's not playing with the team. Very unfortunate, by the way. Carey Price, like I've seen so many tweets about how Carey deserved a management group like we have today, because the team they're building is like so deserving of his caliber. Is so that whole thing is so upsetting. But like, other than him, Patrick Laine, the top paid player on the Montreal Canadiens, $8.7 million. We also receive a second round pick in 2026. And what do we send back? We send back Jordan Harris. So basically, like, just on its merits, this trade, right? It almost sounds like a cap dump. Like, Jordan Harris was our fifth left defenseman on the team, right? If we think
Yeah.
Matheson, Hutson, Guhle, Struble, Jackeye, Harris. Like, Harris has to fit in between, Struble and Jackeye, or maybe just a little bit ahead of Jackeye, in terms of like how much he was playing and how many games he was getting. But so we're giving up basically nothing. We're trading away from this position where, and not to say anything bad about Jordan Harris. Actually, I was looking at some of the advanced stats the other day. Jordan Harris is one of our best defensemen in terms of all of the advanced stats. Right now, that being said, he hasn't been deployed against the top lines in the NHL. Right, he wasn't on that first pairing defenseman like a Kaiden Guhle was. Right, and so you would expect Kaiden Guhle, who is playing those first pairing minutes, to have way worse numbers, especially on Montreal Canadiens team that's developing as they were last year. But Jordan Harris had fantastic back end numbers, like all of those advanced stats. They looked great for him. But realistically, we have a bunch of players who are very, very similar to him, if not better, in whichever area of the game that he played. Right? So we're giving up Jordan Harris, but then we also get a second round pick, and we get Patrick Laine. So just on those merits of the trade, Nathan, is this a win for the Montreal Canadiens?
Yeah, it's absolutely a win for the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, we have Patrick Laine coming off of injury. Now, this is the one thing that I am a little worried about. We'll see whether or not he can stay healthy for the remainder of the season or the duration of the season. But if he can't, then it will be a loss. But as of now, absolute win. Absolute win.
Yeah, and then just talking about a little bit of the salary cap as well. That $8.7 million, I know I've heard a lot of people talking about how, this reduces Montreal's ability to utilize their cap space to make big plays, right? Because coming into the season, we had a lot of space compared to a lot of the other teams. And most fans were looking for a play by Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes where we would send or obtain a player that has a higher cap hit maybe for the season and obtain other assets with it, kind of like a cap dump, because we have that space. Now, this $8.7 million technically reduces that ability, right? Because we're paying this guy $8.7 million on the cap. However, in the press conference that Kent Hughes held right after this trade, he was asked by Arpad Basu whether or not he would be able to ice a roster with Carey Price still on the roster, not on LTIR. And he said they believe they will be able to. So what that means from a Montreal Canadiens perspective is going into the season, if they want to acquire more cap space, they can simply take Carey Price, put his whole salary on LTIR. That's $10.5 million in space. Open that up. And so whatever else they want to do, whether that's trade, get like a cap dump kind of trade, or obtain another player, or whatever it may be, we still have $10.5 million to play with, and that's going to go right into next season, where we have almost just as much cap space as this season. So just on those merits, I think this sounds like it doesn't even matter what Patrick Laine does. You know what I mean? Like the gamble on that kind of caliber of player. I mean, watching in the NHL, Nathan, who else in the NHL has a shot like Patrick Laine? Sure. And maybe Austin Matthews?
Yeah, Bedard, Matthews, we can see Pasternak do it a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like who else? Like thinking about like this is a player who we have not had in Montreal. Like people love comparing Cole Caulfield and stuff to like this elite goal scorer. Patrick Laine has scored 40 goals in a season. He did it in his second season in the NHL. Right? Now, since then, he's battled that injury trouble. He went into the whole player development stuff.
But when he had the 40 goal season, he had players like Connor, Scheifele, Wheeler, Ehlers. That's a pretty solid group to have around you, and then to go to Columbus, not have the same core around you, and then deal with the injury. Yeah, I believe that's more the reason why we saw that fall off of the past few seasons. But now that he's surrounded by guys like Caulfield and Suzuki, for starters, and then we have Slafkovsky, Newhook, who I believe will feed him the puck a whole hell of a lot. We're going to see him score quite a few goals this season.
Yeah, I believe so too. And I mean, I think the other great thing that this does for the team, just on a projected lineup kind of perspective, is we didn't really have a lot of movability within the lineup, right? Whether that be on our power play lines, whether that just be on our actual regular forward lines. I mean, this gives us, if we think about it, like top 6 forwards on this team right now, you've got the Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky line. You've got Kirby Dach, who's coming back from injury, played 2 whole games last season. We've got Alex Newhook. We have Patrick Laine. Like there's your top 6. Now, Josh Waugh, I don't know if you were watching the games that he played last year. Josh Waugh looks like the kind of player who can very easily slot into a top 6. I mean, he was playing with Connor Bedard in those World Juniors, and Connor Bedard made a comment saying that Josh Waugh is like one of the highest level thinking players he's ever played with in the game, right? That's super promising because this gives you so many other options, right? If you want to slide Newhook down to 3C, right, you put Josh Waugh up on that 2 line, right? If you want, I mean, who else? We're talking about Joel Armia as well. There's been a bunch of people who are saying Armia, because Armia is Finnish and Laine is Finnish, that they should be on a line together, right? Armia scored, 17, 18 goals last season for the team?
Yeah, but as of now, he's projected to be a 4th liner. But if we could see him, that'd be quite the jump to go up to the 2nd line. But then who do you move? Who do you move down? That's the thing. Like you have, because Armia's what a left winger, I believe.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you'd have to move Newhook or Slaf down to 3 or 4, and I just don't see that happening.
Well, I mean, I think Slaf is like a lock for either the 1A or 1B line. Like when I look at these first 2 lines, it's actually really funny. Last year, watching the Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky line, I didn't realize it. It was like halfway through the season. It had to be like January, February, where I'd be watching some of these games, and I would go, "Wow, Montreal's playing really well." You know, we're having we're playing. Look at this. We're skating around the other team. We're making plays, and then all of a sudden, that just disappeared. You know, like we would be in our zone. Everybody's in our zone for a million minutes, and I'm going, what is going on? And I finally realized it was just that Slafkovsky, Suzuki, and Caulfield line was the only line on the team that could skate around the other team, right? I mean, we had Brendan Gallagher playing 2nd line minutes. We had Josh Anderson playing 2nd line minutes. Alex Newhook was our 2nd line center. Like, you got players who, I mean, Alex Newhook definitely has that potential. This is a guy that was drafted, I think it was 16th overall back in 2019, 2020, whatever the draft was that he was drafted. So he definitely has that potential to play that 2nd line minutes. But what Patrick Laine coming in and what Kirby Dach coming back from injury does is all of those players who are probably better suited to 3rd role action right now. I mean, Brendan Gallagher's not a 1st line winger anymore, right? Like he played on our 1st line back when we went to that cup final. He's not that 1st line winger anymore, right?
No.
But so instead of putting him in a 2nd line role, playing against other teams' 2nd lines, now you put him against a 3rd line, and I like that a lot better for the team, right? Like I like seeing a lot of those players be able to play against the people they should be playing against. But then in that top 6 as well, like now you've got 2 lines who can actually score. Like however you want to put it, I agree with you. Or Caulfield and Suzuki stay together. Like those guys are like best buds ever. But I'm gonna give you a proposal for this line A line. Okay, we're gonna put Dach, Slafkovsky, and Laine on a line.
And then who goes with?
That's a 1-2-3 line. I honestly think you could put Newhook probably on that on the line with Caulfield and Suzuki. But that's a 1-2-3 line. I heard this on the Tony Marinaro podcast. Right? It's the 1-2-3. Slafkovsky 1st overall, Laine 2nd overall, Kirby Dach 3rd overall in the draft. Like
it's not a bad idea. I mean, I like the idea more of Slaf staying with Suzuki and Caulfield because they already have that chemistry built up from last season. But over the first few games, just to see how it all works out. I mean, seeing that for like 5 games, and then making decisions from there whether or not to keep it or leave it. Yeah, I don't think that's a terrible idea.
Yeah. Okay. And then from like I don't know. I mean, you played on a bunch of hockey teams, I'm sure. A guy like Patrick Laine is not known for his defensive acumen. A lot of people get mad at him. You know, he's not very. How would you put?
He's like the James Harden of the NHL. He's a powerhouse when it comes to all the forward, everything you need in the forward. But the second you need him to come back on defense, he's not there when you need him to be there.
Right. And so then from like a playing perspective, what do you want to pair a player like that with, right? Like how do you find the complementary pieces to make sure that defensive struggle doesn't actually affect the whole team.
Right. I think your best bet is just to go Newhook, Doc, Laine, because we know Newhook and Doc are both capable of playing in the defensive end as well. Also, having Newhook as the passer on that line who can feed it to two guys like Laine and Doc when you're going into the offensive zone for rushes and trying to get scoring opportunities there. You have two snipers with Newhook as your trailing man. And yeah, I think that's the way to go.
I like it. I like it. The big question, I do think this opens up a lot of things for Marty St. Louis in terms of
Yeah.
forward combinations and stuff. The one question that I had was, how does this affect the power play? Because, I mean, Patrick Laine on the power play is a very, very similar person to Cole Caulfield. Like, both of them taking up that left dot, right, on the power plays. Both of them having
Yeah.
that great slap shot that they can score with. Do you put both of them on the same power play line?
The first power play line is it still has to be Suzuki, Caulfield, and then for the defenseman, most likely Guhle. And then we still need one more. Or
Well,
power play.
probably thinking Matheson though on that first one, right? Guhle hasn't been playing a lot of power play minutes. So I think truthfully, if Hutson starts with the team, that your two defensemen, one on each group of power play, I
Right.
think you're gonna have Matheson on the first one, and you're gonna get Hutson on the second one. And throughout the season, I think Hudson's gonna be challenging for that
Climb this-
first, yeah, just because of how purely skilled that guy is.
Right. Well, then on the power play, you play around with Suzuki, Caulfield again. They're the first line out, and then swap between Slaf and Laine. See who can produce more for the first few games, because both of them are capable. We've seen it. We've seen the scoring abilities on both of them. So I think we just play around, see who can produce more goals. In my opinion, though, I think it'll be Slaf just because of the chemistry they already have.
Well, I think it'll be Slaf as well, but then you can put 4 forwards on it. It's probably gonna be Doc
True.
is the guy that's gonna be out there, but
It would have to be Doc, because Doc would be
Like
the
playing that-
defensive guy if we needed it.
yeah, well, also playing that right in the front of the crease, right? Like I think
Yeah,
Doc was playing that bumper
Yeah.
position before he went out, and he looked really good there. But sort of like how Monahan, if you remember how Monahan was playing on that power play unit last year, like I feel like that's sort of Doc's role. The question I have though for you is okay, so if you take Laine and put him on the second power play unit, what support are you giving him? Sorry, right off the bat, if you put Hutson and Laine on the same power play unit, I think just the two of them, you could put any of the 3 players on the ice, and you're going to score goals with that unit because, Hutson just does some unbelievable stuff in the offensive zone.
yeah, with the puck, and
Yeah, with the puck, but
gets it right
ass-
over to
ass-
Laine.
Exactly. But assuming that, I think one of the most important things to have on a power play is multiple threats, right? I think if you look at our progression last season, one of the reasons that we could not score at the beginning of the season on the power play was because your only threats was Suzuki and Caulfield, right? Matheson was a little bit of a threat from the point. Your bumper position really wasn't doing anything because you never sent the puck over to the right side of the ice. And then all of a sudden, throughout the middle of the season, Slafkovsky starts coming in and brings this slap shot and wrist shot and stuff that he started scoring with. And so now as a defense or on that penalty kill that's facing the Habs, you need to now defend from the right side of the ice in Slafkovsky. You have to defend from the left side of the ice in Cole Caulfield. You have to defend from the middle of the ice in Nick Suzuki, the back of the ice with Mike Matheson. I think it was they were putting Newhook in after Monahan left in that bumper position. If you just have Laine and Hutson on that second unit, who else are you putting on that second unit that gives those scoring threats? Are we talking Josh Waugh? Or are we talking who are we talking about?
What about the other Josh? Josh
Anderson.
Anderson. Yeah.
Hot topic. Josh Anderson.
Yes. Yes. A lot of Habs fans are not a huge fan of him, but he has the goal scoring ability, and I think it's all mental for him. When he's put in situations where they need him, he scores. We saw it in 2020. We saw it against the Golden Knights. I think if he can flip a switch in his mind to just have not the ability, but the confidence to play like that all the time, he could be such a weapon. Josh Anderson just needs to be able to flip a switch to have the confidence to play like that all the time. And if he can do that, he could also be a weapon on the second line. That's more of a long shot. But I do honestly believe that if he can do that, he could be a second line player.
Do you know if Josh Anderson's time ever overlapped with Laine on the Blue Jackets? I don't think it did, right?
No, I don't believe so.
Because when was... Here, let me pull this up. I was thinking about this the other day. He was on the Columbus Blue Jackets until 1920 is when we traded for him.
1920 season.
Yeah, and
but
then...
I feel
when
like
did Laine
Laine
end
was
up there?
on.
Yeah, he only got there in 2021. Okay, so yeah, their time never overlapped. I do think just going back to like the whole how does Patrick Laine fit in on this thing, I think Marty St. Louis just gained so many different options in how he puts a lineup together. And I think from a coach's perspective, that's what you absolutely like love to see, right? Is because last year, I mean, you did not have any choices. Like
That's what you'd love to see, that coaching mind.
I love to see it. I love to see it. One of the hardest
Yeah.
things about coaching intramural hockey is you always have those three guys that are better than everybody else, and so then you just put them on a line together, and then you're like, oh no, what's going to happen with the rest of this team?
But now that you have a guy like Patrick Laine, that would be like our fourth or fifth solid guy. Yeah, you've got so many more
Yeah.
combinations.
Especially on our team, right? It's
Yeah.
definitely a
Yeah.
fourth or
Yeah.
no, exactly. It gives so many different options, and I really think he'll have every opportunity to succeed in Montreal. Like the difference to me between Montreal and Columbus and Winnipeg is you're coming to a Montreal team where every single guy in that locker room believes they can go win, like every single game, right? You have a team that's building towards something. I mean, I don't know what the Columbus Blue Jackets have been building towards. It just seems like every time they try to take a step, they lose 3 players, right? It's like it's actually so annoying sometimes, right? To watch them just from a you'd love to see a market like Columbus succeed. It's a great city. I've been there once. It would be great.
I remember watching the Blue Jackets back in the day, watching Foligno play. It was actually a game, Columbus versus Nashville. A very electric game. Saw a few Shea Weber bombs. That was pretty cool to see in person. But yeah, going back to what they're doing with their players, I swear they just have all the cap space and then use some of the money to make their cannon better in the arena, and that's all they've been doing.
No, honestly, that's all that happens there. And I mean Winnipeg as well. Like you can look at Patrick Laine's career, and I mean Winnipeg, his second season, he's 19 years old. After being drafted second overall, he scores 44 goals, and I think it was that season that they that they went to the conference finals, right? Winnipeg did.
Yes. Yep.
But then after going to the conference finals, they play one series the next year, so they get into the playoffs in 2018-19, and then they play one series as well in 1920, and then that's it, right? Like that's
And
but
then
again,
the-
like that Winnipeg team, I don't know about you, I never felt like they were the top candidate for winning a cup.
No, they never were. I mean, even in that 1920 season, we already know what happened there. We know who made the finals there. But yeah, honestly, top Canadian teams that I could have seen making it deep was the Leafs and us, the Habs. I never really saw. Honestly, the winner of the Leafs and Habs series was gonna beat the Jets, regardless of who won that series.
Yeah, no. I totally agree. That's the 2020-21 season, right? I think.
Oh, that was 2020-21.
Yeah, because 1920 was when we played Philly in that like we played Pittsburgh in the play-in round because of COVID.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then we played Philly, and that was a brutal series.
Right.
No, I don't think Winnipeg was ever like that team that was building towards something. It was just a team that's pretty good, had some pretty good players on it. And so like I look at Patrick Laine, I think he's the kind of guy who is going to be inspired by the system that is being created, right? It's like you're coming to Montreal, you've got one of the best coaches in the NHL right now. I mean, Marty St. Louis hasn't been tested, truly, But everything that he's done in the past year, I've disagreed with some of it, but the majority of the things that he's done have been to help develop his players and put his players into the best chance to have success on the team. You've got amazing video coaches now with the team that are helping the players understand what they're doing wrong and need to be doing better. And you've got the players that have that kind of caliber. I mean, Slafkovsky is a first overall pick. Doc is a third overall pick. You've got, you've got Suzuki, who is 13th, 14th overall. You've got Caulfield, who was drafted 15th overall. You got Newhook, who's drafted 16th overall. I think you're just coming out of this team. There's so much young talent. The last question I have before we move on to the other things that happened this offseason, I wanted to ask you, what do you think like low bar, middle bar, and high bar is for Patrick Laine this coming season?
Yeah. So I think the low bar is pretty self-explanatory. If he gets hurt again, then we'll see him out early. We lose all the money we spent there, and all the hype would die down, which would be really detrimental to the team, I believe. Medium bar, we see him perform well with the Newhook and Doc line, but not exactly where he says he will be at 40 and 50 goals this season. I think we see him as a 20, 25 goal scorer this season, and we don't see the motivation out of him that we are hoping to see, especially on a young team. Then the high bar, what you've been saying this podcast, he's motivated with this young team. They all get along. The vibes in the change room are immaculate. He doesn't have all the pressure on him because we have all these young stars too. And Patrick Laine just plays like Patrick Laine, and then we can see him score 40, 45, or maybe even 50 goals this season. And I think if we do see that happen, the Habs have a very solid chance of making the playoffs this season, even though the sportsbooks say otherwise. Because right now the Habs are listed at a 11 or 12% chance to make the playoffs, which I think is just a joke.
Yeah, we'll talk about how we compare to some other teams in a bit, but I have maybe a hot take for you. I haven't told you this one yet.
Yeah.
I think there is a world in which Patrick Laine is competing for the Rocket this year. I know it's hot. Right? It's hot. But I mean, you're talking about one of the premium goal scorers in the league. And listen, if we have this 1A and 1B line, I mean, this is incredibly important, right? For that to happen, you need two things to happen. You need A, both of our lines need to stay healthy. Those top two lines, right? And B, you need Laine to be the Laine we think he can be, right? But I think if that happens, you're going to have Patrick Laine, who is, I mean, if he's a 50 goal scorer, you're talking about a guy who's most definitely on the first line of any team, right? You're talking about putting him in some situations where he's against the second line of other teams, right? When you're putting Slafkovsky, Caulfield, Suzuki against the first line of the team that you're playing. Like you're putting Patrick Laine out against the second line with Kirby Dach and say Alex Newhook or a Joshua maybe, or whoever fits in as that sixth option. I honestly believe that you could see Patrick Laine score like 60. Like I don't think it's out of the question. Now, I'm not saying it's highly probable, right? I think this is a very long shot, but I don't see a ceiling for this guy. Like I think that has to be one of the coolest things, right? Like you look at Suzuki and you probably put a cap, you say there's not a single world where he scores more than 100 points this season, right? Maybe there is. Maybe there actually is. Like I'd love to see it. But like more realistically, you're saying his top end is maybe 90, right? 95 even. Like you're talking about Patrick Laine here. I honestly, there's no, what's the ceiling? There isn't one.
There isn't a ceiling. Okay, that's a bombshell, first of all. But there isn't a ceiling for any player. But you're right. It is Patrick Laine. We've seen what he can do in the past.
If Raphael Harvey-Pinard came into this league, like you're not going to say he's scoring 50 points, right? Like as great of a guy he is, I love him. You know what I mean? Like there definitely is ceilings and caps and stuff for each one of these players.
Yes, it's definitely possible. But I mean, when you have a guy like Austin Matthews, and then you also have David Pastrnak, like there's guys who, at least in the recent past, have proven themselves to be higher goal scorers. We also got Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman.
Even Connor McDavid.
David will do.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying It could. And
It's possible. Okay.
and like right now in the state of the rebuild that we're in, I think it is super, super exciting to come into the season where realistically, yes, we want to make the playoffs, but we have no real expectations for the team to do so. I don't think. And so we're coming in, we have this young team. What we expect from them is to continue developing. Every single one of those players to continue getting better. And if they all do it at once, if they all push up at once, we could very well easily be fighting for a playoff spot. Like, I don't think it's out of the question. Is there anything else before we wrap up the Patrick Laine section? Anything else you want to say about him?
I think we covered everything. I'm excited to see how he does. I think those first 5-10 games we see him play on the Habs will be very indicative of how our season will progress.
That's actually really interesting because I'm going to take the exact opposite take. And I'm going to say, I think, like I was thinking about this today, I think the only thing that the first bit of the season is going to do for Patrick Laine's season and the Montreal Canadiens season is just determine what the cap is on the number of goals he scores. If he comes out of the gate and starts scoring and starts whatever, like there's no limit, I do see a world where it takes a little bit to figure out where he fits in. And I think that's okay. I think we as Habs fans need to like take a step back and say, this guy played 18 games last season. Right?
Yep.
Like 55 the year before, 55 the year before, 45 the year before. Like let's give this kid a break. He could come out and just start going off because he's really comfortable and he's really happy with where he is. But like I think it could take a little bit to get him warmed up. But once he's warm, I don't really see a stopping point.
You don't see the fire going out. He's just going to be.
Yeah. You know, I mean, especially on this kind of team, like it's such an exciting team to be a part of. I think.
Yeah.
Like you've got that locker room has to be one of the best locker rooms in the NHL, and I don't remember ever saying that about Montreal any of the years that we've watched them.
Yeah, the energy in the locker room will definitely be incredible. Having all that young energy and just even to the very few older players in that room, they're going to be motivated and energized too, just with all that energy in the room all the time. Like, yeah, it'll be a good place. It'll be a good season.
Yep. I mean, hey, all you need for a locker room is Cole Caulfield to smile and everything.
Yep.
Everything's all good, right? So.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, let's wrap that section up and let's go into the rest of the things that happened this year. All right. So this offseason, we saw a few signings, and I know you and I had some conversations about at least one of them where you might have expressed some reservations. Let's go right into that deal. The big signing, Juraj Slafkovsky, extends 8 years, $7.6 million per season. What was your initial reaction? How do you think about this deal right now?
I didn't love it. I didn't love the deal too much. I thought he was a little bit overpaid. I thought we could have saved some cap space. But now having a guy like Laine on the team who might also be able to provide some knowledge, a little bit of wisdom, even though he's only a few years older, it'll give him a little more of a path of how he can play these next 2-3 seasons. And I believe his progression will be raised a little bit and make it justified for this. What is it, $7.5 million a year?
Yeah, 7.6.
7.6 a year. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to give you a few.
At first I was not a fan.
You were not a fan. I came out of it like, oh my God, this is the best deal we've ever signed. Which maybe this is just a different. I mean, this might be how this podcast goes. Is Alex says some ridiculous stuff because I'm super optimistic, and then Nathan's like, yo, whoa, slow down here. Like, we need to take a step back. I look at Slafkovsky, and I mean, last year he scores 50 points and scores 20 goals in his first full season in the NHL, right? He gets injured in that first season. If you look at his progression in terms of goals in his draft plus 2 year, those 50 points is higher than Mikko Rantanen at the same number of games played. Now, I know we're cherry picking here. We're cherry picking a player who we know to be a very good player right now in the NHL. But if Juraj Slafkovsky turns into anything even like a Mikko Rantanen, like this deal has to be like one of the biggest deals of a long time. You know, like that's how I look at it. I mean, I think Slafkovsky this year can score 70. like points, not goals, but points. Let's make sure
Flat
I
70
clarify
goals,
that
yeah.
before that gets edited out somewhere, or clipped out.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other big thing here is he's still on his entry level deal this year, right? Like, this is not an extension that had to happen this offseason. Like, we're going to see a whole nother season of development from him before this contract kicks in. And honestly, I think there's a world in which we're looking at this contract at the end of the season and saying, wow, if we would have waited to the end of this season to sign him, we would be paying $2, $3, $4 million more a year. Right. And I mean, like, I think that's really where this gamble is. I mean, look, if Slafkovsky scores 80 something points this year, by all accounts, by all projections and stuff, you'd be paying him $10 million in the NHL, right? Like, especially with the cap space, especially with cap space going up, especially with whatever. I mean, you're now putting Slafkovsky at a lower cap hit than Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. He's a first overall pick, this guy, right? Like, you're putting him under those two players in cap hit? Like, you know what I mean?
It's a gamble. It is a gamble. We have to see how he does this season. But if he does progress, how you're saying, having star power like Laine behind him, and even Suzuki and Caulfield, yeah, if he does get those points, then yes, it'll be a phenomenal contract signing. I could honestly see him developing with this team as to, he already is one of the best players on the team. But if he is like a Mikko Rantanen, he could even be one of the top players in the league, one of the top point scorers in the league.
On my personal Twitter account, or X account, or whatever you want to call it, I tweeted out February of last year, or February this year, that in 2 years we would be considering Juraj Slafkovsky as one of the top players in the league. And I honestly, like, I remember hearing when he was drafted, there was a scout from Slovakia who talked about him and said that he is the highest caliber player he's seen since Jaromir Jagr came into the NHL. And I mean, I'm not gonna like I honestly believe, looking at Juraj Slafkovsky, the way he's built, I mean, this guy's 230 pounds, 6'3", power forward, and he's got the hands of like Nathan DaCosta, basically, right? Like except that he hits the net, right? Like that,
right?
But you're talking about. I got you a little bit on that one. Sorry. But you're
for those of you,
mm-hmm.
Gonna say, for those of you who don't know, I'm infamous for my shots from the point, soaring just a few inches, maybe feet away from the net.
Yeah,
but it's all right because my passing has been improving. So.
Exactly. The passing game has been good. But like going back to Slafkovsky, like, you've got a player here who has the build and the skill set to be the next Jaromir Jagr in the league. I think he can be that. And
Jaromir Jagr did have Mario Lemieux.
He did. I mean, Juraj Slafkovsky might have Kirby Dach. And I mean, we can talk a little bit about Kirby Dach if you want to, because I think he's a very hot topic in Montreal Canadiens land. There's a lot of talk about his ability to get injured. I heard a stat, though. One of the best things to hear about Kirby Dach, he's now had 3 injuries to 3 different parts of his body, right? This is not a guy who's like having back problems every year and is re-injuring the same thing. Like, these are 3 completely separate incidents, right? I mean, first he injures the wrist, then I mean this past season it was the ACL and MCL, I think was what they said it was. And then there was the other one was something else. I don't really remember which one that was. But these are 3 completely separate things. Kirby Dach is still a 3rd overall pick. He has the potential to be better than a Nick Suzuki, and Nick Suzuki is almost a point per game player now in his 6th season in the NHL, right? Like,
yeah, basing it off of picks, I'm just wondering, does that make him more fragile? Because now he has 3 places where he could re-injure himself.
It's true.
So
it's very true. Kirby Dach's the one guy. Yeah. I mean, I just want to see him play 82 games. If he plays 82 games this season, I don't care what the points are. Like I just want him playing, because he's so good. Like the first 2 games, I mean, we watched the home opener with him
Yeah,
playing.
yeah,
We watched him live. He was fantastic in that game. I just want to see him play, you know?
yeah. All 82 out of Doc. Honestly, all 82 out of these first 2 lines would be a dream,
A
even if they don't
dream.
make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so then we move on from the Slafkovsky signing. We also have the defenseman, right? So Kaiden Guhle signs an extension, $5.5 million per year, 6 years.
Mhm.
What were your thoughts when you saw that one come out?
I think it's solid. I'm honestly not the biggest fan of Montreal's back end core right now, and I think having a younger guy like Guhle set in stone for the next few years to help guide the back end core through the process of just improvement is a pretty good move on the Habs end, considering we already have all the young guys up at forward. I think we just stick with this younger team, and signing him for 6 years, I think is a very good deal on our end.
Yeah, no,
Especially because we also signed Barron and Jack for contract extensions to 2 younger guys. Just keep it rolling with the younger team. I like it.
yeah, no, I agree, and I think also like that 6 years can sometimes be scary for younger guys, right? You're giving them a lot of contract. But at $5.5 million, you're paying Guhle as a top 4 defenseman, like basically as a second pairing defenseman. He's been playing first line minutes, like first pairing minutes,
Been, yeah.
and I think looking at his game, like he is so solid defensively, like so. I remember one of my favorite clips. Maybe someday we'll play clips in the middle of these podcasts, for our fans on YouTube, but Kaiden Guhle's skating is so underrated. Like there was this play. I'll set the scene for everybody. Kaiden Guhle is basically stuck on the offensive blue line, and he's got 2 guys coming at him, like skating directly towards him. And within a matter of like 3 strides, Kaiden is skating as fast as the guys who are skating forwards. He intercepts the one guy, takes the puck away, and puts it out of the defensive zone. Right? It's like one of the most like first of all, he's skating backwards. These guys are skating forwards. I've tried skating backwards. It doesn't work very well. I know you guys can do it a lot better than I can because you actually played hockey. But like to be able to skate backwards at that level, like he's got fantastic skill sets. Again, another 15th overall pick, right? You're signing him as a second pairing. If he slots in as a first pairing, that's another steal. You talked about the Barron and Jack signings. I mean, that was a 1.5 million, 2 years each, I believe.
Yeah.
Those just seem like safe bets. We don't really know where they slot in long term. I don't know. Like I've never told you this before. I have a nickname for Justin Barron. I call him Brock. But that's spelled Brach. Okay. It's because Brachiosaurus is that dinosaur with the really, really, really long neck. Like, you know, those like the ones that, like, you know what I'm talking about, right? You see it. Justin Barron, when he got traded to the Montreal Canadiens, the first game, I swear, like his neck is like 3 inches longer than everybody else's on the team. Like, you can look up this picture. Like I remember seeing him. I'm like, holy, like this guy's got a big neck. So I call him Brock. But anyways, I don't really know if Barron fits in long term.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the Barron one either, but I really love the Jack one because we already know what he can do. He brings the energy to the team when the team needs it. He fights guys on the other team. He brings the energy up in the whole arena. I mean, every time he was on the ice when we went to that home opener, you could feel the energy in the arena go up. Everyone was excited, on their feet, ready to see what he was going to do, if there's going to be a fight. It was just electric when he was on the ice. And I mean, it's definitely worth that. What is it?
1.5 million?
2 years. Yeah. Yeah, 1.5. That's definitely worth it for the Habs.
I mean, the thing that I say, like, he's 23 years old, right? I think he has to be one of the most mature players on the team. Like one of the most, like you hear about how he's talking about like being in the locker room and stuff like that. This kid is 23 years old, and he's saying, you know what? I need to go in that locker room and make sure all of my guys feel like they're safe, feel like I've got their back, that I'm gonna be like no matter where I am on the ice, if somebody comes after one of my players, you're done. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that reputation is starting to get known around the league. He didn't have as many fights last year as he did the year before, partially probably because he injured himself fighting so many times.
He's also such a hard worker. I mean, before he even got into the league, he was working, wasn't it like it was a minimum wage job, and then
he was working Costco.
He was working at Costco, and then he ended up getting to the league, and then I know recently he ended up buying, I believe he bought his dad his dream car, a Mercedes-Benz. Like, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Very mature for his age. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I love him. I can't wait to see what he does. I think both of them on 2-year deals is just a little bit more runway to see what they can do in the NHL, give them more opportunities, right? And I think after those 2 years, you're either going to see one or both of them get traded, or you're going to see some kind of big extension where they're solid fixtures on the team. Like, once we know more about where they fit in, I think that's where we sort of find out where they are. And so I definitely agree. Both of those two things, both of those deals are great. And so those are our 4 extensions. We also signed Alex Barré-Boulet, who is probably just going to play in the AHL this season. I can't imagine that he's playing in the NHL unless a bunch of people get injured. Hopefully only on the back end of the team, because again, we want those first 6 guys to be healthy all season. But yeah, so that was basically all our news from the off season. So let's transition from that, and let's go straight into what we believe our projected lineup sort of looks like for this next season. I like it. I like these transitions. They sound pretty good.
Yeah.
We're gonna add some more in these coming weeks. So projected lineup, Nathan, you've already said first line, Slafkovsky, Suzuki, Caulfield. Second line,
yes,
Doc, Newhook, Laine. What are your other 2 forward lines?
Well, then you're gonna see. I have the projected lines right here. I don't necessarily agree with them all. I would probably put Joshua Roy, Jake Evans, and Josh Anderson together. They're 3 guys who have played with each other for a while now. They know each other. They have the chemistry. And then have Armia, Dvorak, and Gallagher as the 4th line. And I know it's not the best look having Gallagher on the 4th line, but honestly, at this point in his career, I see him there. Like, maybe you could switch Anderson and Gallagher at times, but yeah, those are the top. Those are the lines I see.
That's fair.
For the
fair.
forwards.
And then I'll take a little bit of a different approach to it. I do think the team is better if Alex Newhook slots in as the 3C. And so in my perfect world, Joshua is sitting on that second line with Doc and Laine. And I think in that scenario, I think you can switch around Slafkovsky and Waugh. Like, I think Waugh can sometimes play with Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slafkovsky with Doc and Laine. I think you can sort of switch those 2 wingers. But I think those, like, Caulfield, Suzuki are together, Doc and Laine are together, and then like the left wingers can kind of switch around. I put Alex Newhook on that 3rd line. Alex Newhook is one of the fastest players I've ever seen play in the NHL. Like, I think that guy's got legs for days. I put him with Josh Anderson as well, another super fast player, and then we sort of come down a little notch, right? Because like who else on the team can really play at that level? Maybe you put a Jake Evans on that line, and then you put Christian Dvorak with Armia and Gallagher. But I do agree on your top 12 forwards. I think the top 12 is nearly set in stone. I don't really see anybody else making a dent. Maybe Pizzetta will come in a few games for Evans or Armia, or I don't really know. I don't really know where Pizzetta fits in anymore. He's 26 years old. I like the guy. He's got great hair.
Yeah.
But like, I don't really know.
He should be on a Head and Shoulders campaign.
Honestly. But yeah, I don't really know where he fits in. And then let's go to like defense. Like, obviously our goalies are set, Montembeault and Primo. I We can talk a little bit actually about that. Do you think they split games this season, or do you see Montembeault playing like 2/3 of the season like a starter would?
Well, we saw how Montembeault played towards the end of the season last year, and I think he's definitely going to be starting more of the games at the beginning of the season, and then uh, if he plays phenomenally, he's going to be our guy. He's going to be playing 3/4 of the game this season. But if he performs at a subpar level, then we're going to see Primo step in, and he will need to step in if we want to see the Habs get to where they should be, in my opinion. Because if we don't have Primo and we don't have Montembeault, we're not making the playoffs.
No.
We need one of
If
them.
those guys don't play up to what they need to play at, I don't really see a pathway to the playoffs. But that being said, I think Montembeault had some of the best advanced stats in the league last year, especially on a team that towards the end of the season he was playing really well. I also thought I've always thought that Primo has never really had an opportunity to be the backup. He came in, I remember like 2 seasons ago, he played like 3 games. It was like 1 in November, 1 in February, and 1 in April, right? Like that was the only NHL games that he played. Even last year when who was the guy that we just traded to the Devils? Jake Allen. When Jake Allen was on the team, you had 3 goaltenders. Primo was playing 1 out of like 6 games, one of every 5 games. Like I can't wait to see what this kid can do. He's only 25, which in goaltender land is like very young.
Very, very young. Yeah.
Right. I can't wait to see what he can do in the NHL, playing actual like steady schedules instead of just playing once every little bit. It's going to be interesting. But then I think the biggest questions for this roster come on our D-core, because we have so many defensemen that could be playing in the NHL, depending on how training camp goes, depending on all of that kind of stuff. How do you see those pairings line up?
Yeah, so for now, I see Kaiden Guhle is a pretty solid lock for now for the first line. And then the second and third line, that's where I'm a little bit split. This might be a bit of a hot take, but I can see Jack-Eye being a second line for our defense with Savard, and then seeing Lane Hutson, Justin Barron as our third line. And I think it might be in our favor to do that, because we'd have to see Lane Hutson prove himself. I don't think we put him right at the second line right away. We let more of the tenured guys play where we know they can play. And then if Lane Hutson performs how we know he can perform, especially in the NHL, we have him be that second line guy. I don't know if we'll see him on the first line of the defense this year, but I can see him progressing to the second line. And then for the fourth line, I don't really have too much of a take.
Well, for pairings, usually you only have 3, right? I think you're going to carry Struble on the team no matter what, because he's a good 7th option, I think. The question I have for you is, do you start Lane Hutson in the AHL? Like, I know you and I are both very high on this kid. I've talked to some people who have played with him directly, and have watched his games back in Boston University. Like, this is a player that just brings energy to every single game that he plays. He's super good skating player.
I think you do the same thing like what we did with Slafkovsky. Slav started in the NHL, and he didn't perform how we thought he was going to perform for that first little bit there. But with time and experience, he slowly improved, and then we saw it last season. He started playing like how we knew he could play. So I think with Lane Hutson, we do the same thing. We let him play. Even if he performs a little bit subpar, we just move him down a line and keep him in the NHL so he can progress, because we know what he's capable of. We saw it at BU.
Yeah, we did. I mean, for sure we saw it at BU. BU he lit up that league. It was ridiculous. I heard actually the guy that played with him, they call him on the team, they call him a rover. They don't call him a defenseman. He's creating a new position basically, because the guy is just everywhere on the ice. He can get back defensively, and he can be like behind the net in the offensive zone. I think
who's the OG rover then? Makar?
I guess so. I guess that's who he's being compared to. And honestly, I think that's probably his ceiling. Like I think Hutson could be a 110 point player eventually in this NHL. The question is just how good he can be defensively, and that's going to be a big question. But that's why I sort of ask, like, looking long term, I think Lane Hutson plays with David Reinbacher. Like, I think their skill sets just so perfectly complement each other. You've got Reinbacher's the bigger stay-at-home defenseman. even though he's not, like people call him a stay-at-home defenseman, I think he's more like a Shea Weber kind of guy. I think David Reinbacher is going to like turn into that, where he's super solid defensively, but if you ask him to take a slap shot from the point, like he's going to score a few goals. But that's where I sort of see it, right? It's like David Reinbacher, this bigger guy, Lane Hutson, the smaller guy. I think those two fit really perfectly together. I wonder if you don't put Lane Hutson in the AHL to start the season, just to get them playing some minutes with each other, just to see how they work out. And maybe we make a trade a little bit into the season where we send out a defenseman so we can bring both of them up at the same time and just have them keep playing together. Like I was wondering if that was an option, but I do agree I'd love to see him on the starting lineup because I just think he's too good to stick in the AHL right now.
Yeah, I think we just keep him, have him start in the NHL, and then let him progress. And if he does not perform for a long period of time, then yeah, move him to the AHL.
I like it.
But if he does play how he can play, not even above expected, but if he just plays how he can play, Lane Hutson can be a 50 or 60 point scorer first season in NHL.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. And actually, I think too, he could take over first power play line minutes. I think this season, it is very possible that halfway through the season, he takes over from Mike Matheson. Because I have to say, Mike Matheson, a lot of people love him. I don't know why people love him. I would have shipped this guy off this offseason. I don't like how he plays defensively, and I honestly think he takes way too much risk offensively for what he gives up defensively. Lane Hutson is going to be very similar, where he's going to give up some things defensively. I just think his offensive game is so much higher than a Mike Matheson. I mean, you watch those 2 games that he played against Detroit last year to finish off the season. Lane Hutson gets an assist in his first ever NHL game. A beautiful assist as a side note to that. But even playing 5-on-5, this guy was skating around people. This guy was
just using those hands of those
with his hands and like the way he can shift directions, like just with a snap of the fingers, basically. Like
he does look like a young Makar. He does look like a young.
He does. It's just going to be determined if he can play as well defensively or can be paired with somebody. I think in that sense, maybe I would put Lane Hutson with like a David Savard, just because Savard is going to have more of that defensive awareness where he's not looking to prove himself. He's just trying to help the team out however he can. Right? I wonder if that's maybe the pairing there. I feel like Justin Barron, if you want to give him an actual chance, I think you can put him with Mike Matheson, because I think long term you want Guhle playing on the left side. Like Guhle is a left shot defenseman. I think you want him playing the left side eventually. The thing is, we don't have like as it projects right now, we only have 2 right shot defensemen playing in the NHL. Right, that's Justin Barron and David Savard. I think Logan Mailloux may challenge for a spot this season at different points. I like the game that he played. He played that second game against Detroit to end the season. I think David Reinbacher, if he starts the AHL and comes out flying, I think he could be challenging for a spot. But unless we have injuries on that decor, I think we are going to see another trade where we send out a player from our NHL squad because we are trying to make room for the younger players and giving them opportunities. I don't know if that's trading away David Savard. I honestly really, really like what David Savard brings to the locker room. He's 33 years old. That's not super, super old. He doesn't have a lot of that offense anymore that he used to. I just think he's like just that calming presence that he brings defensively. I honestly, I love him so much more than Matheson. Just because Matheson, I feel like, man, this guy's like he's like a firework, you know, you light a match under him and, you know, he's going to go explode for a little bit and like have a bunch of points. And then defensively, you're going to be like, yo, where did our defense go? This guy's not there, you know?
So you could see Hutson replacing Matheson then.
This season, on that first power play unit at the very least. I don't know necessarily first pairing D-man, just because I do think Lane Hutson still has to develop that defensive game. Yeah, it really depends on like how he looks defensively, because that's gonna really determine whether or not he stays in the NHL. Because Kent Hughes does not want Lane Hutson staying up with this team if he's only going to be a power play specialist. Like, that was one of the quotes that we took out of the press conference that he did, was that he does not, like, Kent Hughes does not want Lane Hutson to be developed as a power play specialist, and that's it. We only deploy him in the offensive zone. He wants Lane Hutson to be the Cale Makar that you can put on at any time on the ice and trust him to do anything. If he can show that in training camp that he can do that, I think he's been putting on muscle. I don't know if you saw that picture. This kid has like his legs, like, oh my God, like his legs are bigger than my head. Like they're massive. They're like tree trunks, right? Which I guess that's what you need when you're 5'10" in the NHL. But very similar to Marty St. Louis, actually. If you look at pictures of Marty St. Louis back when he was playing, even still now, Marty St. Louis low-key still works out. But Lane Hutson has been working on those legs. If he can play really solid defensively to begin the season, he'll be up with the team, I think, the whole year.
I agree.
Like, are you excited? You excited about the season?
Yeah, I'm very, very excited. We're going to see, again, like I said, I think 5-10 games will be very indicative of how the season progresses. Like you said, for Laine, he might need some time to get accustomed to the team. Yeah, that might be right. But I do think that the first 5 to 10 games, because it's the team as a whole, right? We'll see how they play together, and it'll be indicative of how the season will progress.
Yeah. I look at this team and I say it starts right at the top with Nick Suzuki. Like, Nick Suzuki, in my mind, is the most perfect captain that we could ever ask for on this team. Doesn't say a lot. He's fourth right now in the NHL for active Ironman streaks. He's played. He's 25 years old. He has not missed a single NHL game. He's played 82, 82, 82, 82. At 82, I think it's up to 300 now. Nick Suzuki is like that calming presence just in the locker room, just sets the tone. Cole Caulfield's like your little Easter bunny who's like, oh my God, I'm so happy to be here. This is so exciting. This is whatever, he's got that energy. I think Slafkovsky is like your almost like your Nathan McKinnon-esque player, where he's like that super, I just want to win. I'm here. I just want to score. Like, he did an interview a week ago where he was asked about his season, about whether or not he was happy with his 50 points. And he was like, yeah, 50 points, whatever. But honestly, I don't want to be scoring 50 points. I want to be scoring 70, 80, 90. 50 is okay. But it's we're looking at his season going, wow, this is such a great season. He's going, yeah, whatever. It needs to be better. I need to do more. I want to do more. I want to keep developing. I love the vibes of this dressing room. And I mean, I think you put Patrick Laine in there, and Laine, from everything he was saying in his press conference, he understands that he's coming in as a leader on this team. He understands the impact that he can have on younger players just through the way he talks to them, the way that he interacts with them, what he goes out and does with them. In a few weeks, I swear, the season starts in something like 37 days I get there's this one guy on Twitter who keeps posting every day, and it says there's 37 days until the season starts. I think we're going to look at this in 6 weeks and be like, wow, this is an exciting team to watch.
I'm most excited about Laine because, again, like you're saying, he's going to be a leader, but doesn't have to be the superstar that we need him to be, because we have all the other guys around him. We'll take that pressure off of him as well.
The thing I keep saying, if you put Patrick Laine on a second line,
it says a lot about our team.
Says a lot. That's something we have not been able to say. I remember looking at there's a stat out there. You know who the last point per game player on the Montreal Canadiens was?
Point per game? Ready?
Kovalev. Pacioretty never did it.
What?
Yeah.
Kovalev.
Alex Kovalev. Do you know how long ago that is? I was 11 or whatever when this happened.
Yeah.
I remember I loved Alex Kovalev because my name's Alex and his name's Alex. I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, But that's how young I had to be to see a point per game player. You're talking this season, Slafkovsky could be. I think Nick Suzuki's basically a lock as long as he's healthy 82 games. I think he's definitely hitting 82 points this season at least. I think Cole Caulfield. I mean, we have a whole episode planned where we're going to project all of this stuff. Because I'm really interested. I want to set some lines. I want to find those betting lines that are profitable here, because these players are super, super optimistic right now. And I think it's exciting to be a Habs fan. Like no matter how the season goes, I know a lot of people want to see him make the playoffs or be pushing for playoffs. Honestly, we could be fifth last in the league as long as Laine scores 50 and Suzuki scores, 82 something points and Caulfield scores 40 and Slafkovsky scores 70. Like, we can have the worst defensive team in the NHL. I call the season a win. Go into next year and just refine the back end. And then all of a sudden we're competing not only for a playoff spot, but now we're actually considered contenders for even more than that the year after when Demidov comes over. And then this team is
disgusting.
Like, I don't even, like, we're talking about a top 6 that doesn't even have a Demidov in it. And Demidov, like, top skilled player from this draft that we just drafted. The future outlook of this team is so bright. I don't remember ever feeling like this about the team. It's exciting.
It's a good time to be a Habs fan. It's a good time to be a Habs fan.
That's why we're doing this podcast, right? We think a lot of people are excited. We're excited. I've watched so much content on this team this summer already, and it's like it was like July something. It's like right in the middle of the off season, and I was consuming Habs content and like looking for more because it's such an like I can tell you right now, Leaf fans are not looking for content in the off season because they're like, oh, please don't remind us. Please don't remind us that we lost again. Yep. It's great. Anyways, Nathan, thank you. We'll do this again next week. Thank you to all of our listeners for our first ever podcast. We hope you enjoyed. We'll be bringing this to you every week, probably.
Every Thursday night, Friday morning.
Probably Thursday night, Friday morning. Look for it. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you add us. We'll be everywhere.
We're on Spotify podcasts,
Apple Podcasts. We'll be Amazon Podcasts. We'll be across the whole board as of tonight, I think. I have to set a little bit of that up still, but yeah, exciting times to be a Habs fan. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back next week.
I'm so excited. It's gonna be good season.
It will be. Cheers.
Alrighty. Yeah, I'll see you later.